Okay, this is Unit 7, Part 1, and in this video we're going to be talking about the geography of the Arabian Peninsula, and then we're going to talk about how a caravan leader starts a whole new monotheistic religion that we're going to know as Islam, and it's going to grow into the second largest religion in the world. So we'll talk about him, and we'll talk about the basic tenets of Islam.
Okay, this is Unit 7, Part 1, and we're going to be talking about the geography of the Arabian Peninsula, and then we're going to be talking about how a guy named Muhammad is going to found a religion, and it will become the second largest religion in the world, and some of the basic beliefs and tenets of that. Alright, so here it is. This is your SOL, and you need to describe the origins, beliefs, traditions, customs, and spread of Islam. We're also going to assess the influence of geography on its economic, social, and political development, including the impact of conquest and trade. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to label some things on your map, and you will find this map on the front page with all the SOL information, and so if you get that out, and we'll start labeling. Okay, the first thing that we're going to put on there is the Arabian Peninsula, and this is the Arabian Peninsula. And then we are going to put in the city of Mecca, which should go right there. And then the city of Medina, which goes right there. These are going to be the two major cities in the founding of Islam, and so we're going to talk about their roles as we go on. Okay, the Red Sea can be found right here, and then the Persian Gulf, which of course is more news worthy probably to us in terms of the Iraqi wars. And then lastly, the Arabian Sea, which will play a big role when it comes to trade between the Middle East, Africa, and India. Okay, so that's your map. Hope you have it labeled. Okay, so back to those two cities of Mecca and Medina. Both are located, as you can see, on the Arabian Peninsula. And Mecca and Medina are probably the earliest of Muslim. Now, here is what Mecca and Medina are linked by. They share trade, and trade items going back and forth between the two cities. They also share language, which is Arabic. And then lastly, what they're going to share is religion, which of course is going to be Islam. But they are separated by a few things. There's religion. What they're separated by are desert and the Bedouin tribes, who could often make it difficult for trade caravans and others between the two cities. Okay, so what I would like for you to do on your notes is analyze why the cities of Mecca and Medina were isolated but still connected. Do that right there. Okay, so how does Islam get started, and then how does it spread? Alright, first we want to talk about a guy named Muhammad. He's born in 570 AD in Mecca. Now, Muhammad grew up in rather modest conditions, and he worked his way up, and he gained a great reputation for being honest. And meanwhile, across town, as they say, in Mecca, a wealthy widow named Khadijah had this business, this sprawling caravan business that her husband left when he died. And so people said that she should get Muhammad to run it. And eventually Muhammad married Khadijah and became very wealthy through this. But as he did, he really did not like some of the things that he was seeing in Mecca. Number one, he felt like the treatment of the poor was horrible, and that he felt the city was consumed by greed with the trade and the bazaars, and he felt that their worship of idols, including the Kaaba stone, which was a meteorite that had fallen to the earth near Mecca and been turned into a religious shrine, was not the right way to go. So Muhammad did what many of the people did in those times. He went to the desert, he found a cave, he prayed, and he fasted. And during that time, he is visited by the angel Gabriel, who brings to him messages. And the first revelation, he tells Muhammad 3 times to recite. And what he's talking about reciting is that Allah is the one and only God. And Allah was the Muslim word for God. And so he comes back with a second revelation, which is rise and warn. In other words, Muhammad is supposed to spread the message to the rest of the world. All right? Okay, so Muhammad was not very popular in Mecca. As a matter of fact, there are probably attempts on his life, and he is threatened. So he leaves, and his followers sort of force him to go. And the move when he leaves is called to Medina, ironically, is the Hijra. And that is a time when Muhammad becomes very, very powerful. During this time period, he did something called the Medina Compact, which he basically got the Bedouin tribes, which had been fighting and at war with each other over everything from watering holes to camels to horses, to put Islam first and to follow Muhammad as their leader. And by the time Mecca realized that this religion and the power that Muhammad had gained, it was too late. They sent an army out, but it was over before it started. And so the Muslims easily defeated them and moved into Mecca in 630 AD. They established the Kaaba as a religious shrine for Muslims. And Islam became the religion. Muslims are the followers of the religion. And Muhammad was the prophet of God, or God's messenger. There again is the Kaaba becoming the shrine. That's what in the picture, those are Muslims chanting and marching around the Kaaba stone. Now, the two cities still play a huge role in Islam. Mecca is the spiritual capital of Islam, and Medina will become the political capital. Okay, so here's the amazing thing. Despite all of the barriers, the desert, the distances between places, the environments, the mountains, Islam spreads. And it spreads into the Fertile Crescent and Iran and Central Asia. It is facilitated and allowed to do this because the Byzantine and Persian empires are not as strong as they once were. But one of the things I want you to understand is that Islam spreads very differently. Muhammad had an actual army which sort of allowed him to take his religion and spread it into those areas. Okay, so some of the geographical influences on the economy. All right, the political unity of the first Muslim empire is going to be short-lived. Muhammad dies just 2 years after conquering Mecca, and there are caliphs that come after him, which we'll talk more about in the next video. But one of the things that you need to understand is that after the third caliph, things will drastically change. The Arabic language will help the spread of Islam. It will also facilitate trade across Islamic lands. And trade is another big reason that Islam spreads, especially when it leaves the Arabian Peninsula. Trade will help its ability to go to other places immensely. Now, slavery was still a part of this part of the world. However, just like Rome and Greece, slavery was not based on race at this point. Okay, so below, what I would like you to understand and explain to me in your notes is how Muhammad was different from other religious leaders that we've talked about up to this point. Remember, you can stop the videos at any point to fill out your notes. Okay, so what are some of the basic beliefs and traditions and customs of Islam? Well, the first thing you have to understand is that Islam is monotheistic. They believe in one God, and that God is named Allah. Their holy book is the Quran, and you will see it spelled a couple of different ways. And the word actually means recital, because Muslims believe that when you read the Quran, you are reading the Word of God. The 5 pillars are the basic rules of how to practice your religion, and we'll go into those in more detail in a minute. And one of the things that I want you to understand is that Islam does accept many of the Judeo-Christian prophets. For example, Moses and Jesus are prophets of God in the Quran. There are other things that we'll talk more specifically about in class when we start doing some of our projects. Okay, so the Quran. Remember, that is a collection of Gabriel's messages, and it is the final authority on all aspects of Muslim life. Remember that Arabic, which it is written in, goes right to left. So the book looks like it's upside down, but it's not. That's the way the Quran is written because of it being written in Arabic. So what are the 5 pillars? Let's talk about that. All right, the 5 pillars of Islam. The first one is that Allah is the only God. One God. Again, that idea of monotheism coming through. The second pillar is that you should pray 5 times a day. And you should face Mecca when you're doing that. And they have a prayer rug. They kneel down on their knees. You place your head to the ground and you submit to God. Because remember, the word Islam actually means submission to the will of God. The third pillar is that you give to the poor. Alms for the poor. Muslims believe that you should give at least 10% of your income to support the poor. Okay, the next pillar is fasting during the month of Ramadan. Okay, Ramadan is a celebration of when Muhammad received the revelations from Gabriel. And so during that month, Muslims from sundown to sunset do not eat. At the end of the day in most Muslim cities, a cannon is fired and it starts the evening breakfast. Break the fast. You get it? Yeah, and Muslims have a big meal that night, and then the next day they start it over. The last of the pillars is a pilgrimage to Mecca. At some point during your life, Muslims are supposed to make a pilgrimage to Mecca. Now, I'm going to give you some great ways to help remember these in class, and we'll talk about these in much more detail in class. Okay, so on your notes, what I want you to do is list the 5 pillars of Islam, and then compare them to the 10 Commandments. And I've given you a copy of the 10 Commandments here to sort of remind you from back in Unit 2. And keep in mind what each of the things deal with, and come up with a little bit of a theory as to how they're alike and different in this box right here. Okay, so what are the big ideas of this video? Alright, first, the cities of Mecca and Medina will play a huge role in the formation and spread of Islam. Remember that trade and religion and language link the 2 cities. Despite the deserts and the Bedouin tribes and the many other hurdles, they are linked. Muhammad will found a powerful monotheistic religion that will spread through trade and conquest. Remember, he does have his own army. And the 5 pillars of Islam are a religious guide for Muslims to live by. And with the Quran, it pretty much sets out how you should live your life and what role everyone should play in it. Alright, hope you enjoyed the video. Get ready for part 2